Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 143. Now, we are just coming out of a run of 5 fantastic guests. So we have got an episode today, like a breather episode with the 3 hosts. Just to remind you of the last 5 guests. And if you haven't listened to any of the episodes, I'd really recommend you go back and listen to them, especially if there's anyone that jumps out that you may have just missed who you'd be interested in. We had episode 138 with John Engham, who is actually over in the UK next week for flexible steel and the Strong First Bodyweight certification. Then we had episode 139 with Denis Vasiliev, who was a fantastic guest, 11 times kettlebell sport world champion. Then we had Dave Atkins, physiotherapist from Principal Physiotherapy, episode 140. We had Karen Smith, Coach Karen Smith from Dallas, Texas, episode 141. And then last week we had Travis and Ted from the Summit Mentality, episode 142. And today, like I said, it is the 3 of us. So welcome, Mr. Peter Lant. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Good.
Thanks.
Is the weather good in Bath for you?
Do you know what? It is. Yes, it is. Actually, there's something great happening this weekend. I'm doing my 6 million steps. It's not a challenge. It's just, I just decided to do 6 million steps this year. So it'll keep me consistent. And a guy got in touch with me who I used to train online, got in touch with me in March. I just sent a message, said, "Oh, it's great that I love what you're doing there." And there's a 25-mile walk, a circuit of Bath walk that he attempted to do a couple of years ago and he never finished. I think it was a time constraint or something, but his knees were sore and hips were sore and stuff. So he said, "I'm going to go for it again. I'd love some company. Will you do it with us?" So we're doing it on Saturday. So that'll be good.
Wow. So you're going for it. Was that 25 mile, did you say? On Saturday?
Yeah, 25 miler. So we've got it all arranged, and it hasn't taken much arrangement. We just picked a date. I said, whatever the date is on Saturday, I don't know. But I just said, does that date work for you? He was like, yep. And it was like, right, you've got 2 months. So me and him are going. Sid the Spaniel's coming with us.
I was going to say, will Sid be okay with 25 miles? That's okay, is it?
Of course, he's a Spaniel, man. He'll go until he drops. So, yeah.
Excellent. And just a quick question about this 6 million steps. How many does that equate to per week? Just so people can maybe...
Oh, per week. I don't know. Per day, it's like 16,500 or something, roughly.
Okay, so it's an average of 16,500 steps a day for a whole year.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't do that every day, obviously. Like some days I'll do 8,000, other days I'll do more. So Saturday is going to be, I don't know, 60,000 or something like that,
I was going to, say Saturday will probably be 50,000 plus in one day.
Yeah.
Right? That'll be,
but I'm averaging, there's a walk that I can do. It's like about a 5-hour walk around here and that's about 38,000 steps. And if I do that once every couple of months, it keeps my average right up there.
Yeah.
So I think I'm on average about 125,000, 130,000 a week, something like that. And
wow.
It's great. It's really enjoyable.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that is, like you say, that consistency for having to keep that going, all year round, through the seasons, through the different weathers. That's going to be that's really, really good. That's a great idea. That's fantastic. Mr. Paul Bassett, how are you doing?
Yeah, in immortal words of Brian from space: pain, anger, misery, all those things, all experiencing in my own training. But yeah, I'm good. I'm good apart from that. Yeah, I've got talking about our previous guest. Dennis has got me doing 10 minutes of snatches tomorrow, which is going to be fun. I can see that he's put in the plan 10 minutes of jerks next week. So all those emotions, all that fear and trepidation.
Is that multiple hand switch tomorrow for 10 minutes, or have you got to try a single hand switch?
Yeah, one hand switch.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. You've got to do it, So he's kind of like getting used to the 10 minutes. We don't do 10 minutes that often, but it's kind of trying to take the fear and the anticipation out of it. Otherwise, you always just thinking, God, 10 minutes, God, I've got to psych myself up. And if you just make it a regular thing, it's a bit less intimidating. But I still don't really look forward to it, because you kind of it never lands on a day where you're full of energy. You just kind of have to muscle through it. So I've got that plan tomorrow.
Yeah, I know Lauren Emery at the gym has been doing obviously stuff with Finn, and she was doing, I think it was the other week, she had to do a 10-minute one arm long cycle with one hand switch, single arm long cycle with one hand switch for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Which she came into the gym, she did about 8.5 minutes and then couldn't continue, and then went home and did 10 minutes within the hour. I think it was something ridiculous, because she was so frustrated with herself. She went home, and within about an hour later, she did 10 minutes, which is, and she completed the 10 minutes. So
I've done that, not necessarily in the same day though.
Yeah.
Next day, when you just kind of like, you get super frustrated with yourself, because it's on the plan, you've got to do it. And it just, whatever on the day, your just mind's not in it, and you feel like you let yourself down.
Yeah. Oh well.
Let yourself down, let the family down.
Okay. So the guests we've had on, I mean, we've had a cracking run of 5 weeks, haven't we? With some really interesting guests. I did actually use, as part of my kind of Facebook group at the moment, I've been doing some, not anywhere near the walking that Peter does, but this kind of consistency challenge group I've got. We've been aiming for 220. It sounds pales in comparison, but 2 times 20 minutes walks per week. Distance walks like the ones we got from James from Strength Matters. So you're aiming for as near to 2.4 kilometers as you can in 20 minutes. And then 1 hour walk where you're trying to get to, I think it's 6.4 kilometers in the hour once a week. So that's been really good. And I kind of, I was thinking about, I mentioned in the group about Dennis talking to us the other day on the podcast. And I said, it really struck a chord with me. I think it got to the Sunday evening and I hadn't done my 1 hour walk. And I needed to, because I committed to doing it. So I went out on the Sunday evening to do it. But we've all been there, I'm sure, where you really didn't want to do it, but you said you would, and you needed to do it. So you go out and do it. And it was stuck in my mind that the thing that Dennis was saying, where if you're going to commit to something, make sure you do it, and you do it to the best of your ability, and you see it through to the end, And if you're not going to commit to doing that, then don't commit, don't say you will. It's kind of like, do what you say you're going to do. If you commit to it, then you commit to it. And that was a really, really powerful take home from me.
Because he says you'll think twice before committing to something, won't you? If you're the kind of person that does what you say, then you'll think twice about making a commitment to it.
You'll be a lot more selective about what you say yes to and what you say no to. Definitely. So I mean, with you guys, has there been anything in the last? We were having a little bit of a chat, weren't we, before we came on and started recording about a few things that have been going on for us. But what is any of the recent podcasts kind of resonated particularly with you guys, or have you? What's been going on with your coaching, or anything like that you want to share with us at the moment?
Pete. Silent.
All right, okay.
Or Paul, Paul, you were talking about a thing you sent out, weren't you, to your members about, the training calendar and the year and that sort of thing.
The summer, as we mentioned, is kind of here, isn't it? Well, kind of. It's dipping his toe in the water, as it were. But I think it's quite easy to start chunking your year up into times when you don't train. And as we all know, I mean, you were mentioning, James, you've got a very consistent kind of client base who maybe it's the time of life where they're very consistent with the training all year round. And probably like 85% of my clients are in that category, but there is always a percentage of people who who just really struggle to build the momentum more than a couple of weeks to months. And there's something that stops it. And typically summer's another reason, because it starts to get warm. Particularly, we've had a pretty miserable winter where it's just been wet and cold. The opportunity to sit in beer gardens, have nice relaxing meals outside and go for walks, but also the holidays and just slowing the pace of life down, particularly in London. It's just a very fast pace. I mean, I notice whenever I go out of London, it's much slower, but I just think it's the nature of London. It's just everyone's always kind of needs to get somewhere very quickly. So then people just take this time out, and then they struggle to get back into that rhythm before September. And I find a lot of people don't want to commit to a program in September because work gets really busy, because they start picking up projects again, because that's when everyone's clicked in. And then before you know it, midway through October, people are thinking about winding down again for Christmas. So I'm very much in a kind of pre-summer. Everyone wants to get fit and healthy, but I know that in June, July, people are going to start slowing down as the heat increases. And my email this morning was just to say, hey guys, don't forget that the stimulus that you will go away. If you want to tan, you go out in the sun, you'll get a tan that, in the winter when the sun goes away, the stimulus isn't there and the tan will disappear. And strength training is the same. Once the stimulus isn't there, it will disappear.
No, I mean, I like we said just before coming on, I think my guys are very consistent. Most of them, again, the vast majority are. I think that's in part because I really drill it into people. People probably get sick of me talking about it. I'm constantly doing videos and putting things in the groups and things about it. But I think that's why it's so important, isn't it? I did do a video where I spoke to people about a similar in tone, I think, to what you were saying, but it just kind of hit home with these 3 bank holidays we've had in May, and then with all these events that go on. So I've got certain members who, everyone, obviously, even if you just, without really thinking about it too much, if you look at the calendar of the year, you have Christmas, the New Year, and then the next thing is probably like Valentine's Day, and then it's kind of Easter, and then you've got these bank holidays in May, and then, like you say, it's coming up to summer. But you've always, all the way through the year, you've got Mother's Day, you've got Father's Day, you've got birthdays, you've got anniversaries. And then, some people kind of seem to latch onto these calendar events and just go all out, and just kind of the wheels fall off almost. And I think, Pete, you were talking about something about sort of knowing yourself, weren't you, before we came on? And I suppose just being a steady ship in the storm. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but if you know yourself and you know the direction you're moving in, it's far easier to be a bit more robust. You get people who, there's christenings. I mean, I joked the other day, I kind of did the video, I said, christenings, weddings, bar mitzvahs, whatever, anytime anything happens, it's just like, an excuse to get drunk and indulge for a whole weekend. And if people are doing that, it makes it so much more difficult. And they're stop and start training all the year. They're not going to get any results without consistency. I mean, what do you find, Pete, yourself with your guys?
Yeah, my guys are majority are okay. There's a couple who are quite flaky, but it just is what it is. There always is going to be in a group. But something you said there about, all of the things in the year that go on, and I noticed this in myself and in the people I train, and it was mentioned to me in a group I'm part of as well, where I've got coaches within that group. So I've got like Paul as my strength coach, but I've also got kind of a mindset business type, well, a few of them in the same group. And one of them, Carrie, was saying when it gets to springtime in April, everyone feels a bit like everyone feels a bit lost because there's a change in season. You're coming out of winter, you're coming in towards summer, everything starts to flourish, and people start to people's calendars change as well, because the nights are longer, lighter nights, so therefore you can do more in the evening. So it's like, well, I used to train in the evening, but if it's going to be light, I might as well be out doing something, then the beer gardens become places to go. So there's nothing wrong with changing your schedule around, starting work a bit earlier or whatever you can do. Because I think people look for a program that fits their life. but they want it to be the same all the way through. And it's like, no, because life shifts and life has seasons, and you have seasons over years, you have seasons over the year, so it changes all the time of what you're going to be able to do. And keeping consistent throughout that is really hard if you don't know yourself, and if you don't know that when those times change and when the nights do get lighter, I'm going to go to the beer garden. I'm going to sack off exercise and go to the beer garden, but you might not even know you're going to do that. You might think you're not going to do that, but subconsciously you're going to do it because you always have. So, and that used to be me. I used to do that all the time. So I see that in different times of year. But fortunately, most of my guys have got kids, but they're not as young as maybe the guys who Paul trains have got. I don't know. And I know you maybe train people who are a bit older and the kids will have grown up and moved away, but mine have all got kids who are kind of self-sufficient now. So there's not as much childcare going on. So they can actually show up. And then in summer, when it comes to that time, I have a couple of weeks off anyway, and inevitably it's when they're all going away. So it all kind of fits in together. Yeah. So I think
it's interesting, isn't it? When you have, I mean, obviously in the course of the year, I didn't even mention holidays, because that's the other big one. Obviously, a lot of my guys now are at a stage where, like you say, their children are, probably adult and working, either university kind of age or adult, and they're maybe married and got their own children. So the members have got a lot more freedom. So lots of my guys will be going on holiday, multiple times throughout the year, for a week or 2 weeks at a time. So if you factor in that as well, if when you go on holiday, you totally let loose, similar to the conversation we had about a month ago, which was, time in control versus time out of control. If every one of these events and every one of these occasions and every time you go on holiday, you're out of control, over the course of 12 months, we were speaking about consistency in terms of your walking. If there's no consistency in terms of, diet and alcohol and exercise and walking, and, you're almost fighting a losing battle, and you're almost just trying to stem the tide from a damage limitation almost all year round,
It's almost like doing nothing is almost like a reward. I remember when I told it to clients over and over again that I used to smoke, and it was a reward for whatever scenario I cooked up, which was, sad, happy, grumpy, all the 7 dwarfs. There was a reason why I needed to have a cigarette, and exercise for many people, because they've never really been active, and it's always been a struggle because it's hard, isn't it? And if it's not your main thing, it's not the thing you do, and you don't have that kind of skill acquisition mindset, it can often be something that you have to do because you want to lose weight, you want to be fitter and healthier. And so doing nothing is almost like the reward. It's like, I've worked really hard, I've pushed myself, I've really done this, I'm stressed, I need to take time out, and that's difficult to break, because it really kind of gets it's almost like the serotonin kind of dopamine kind of kick that I would get from eating, or get from smoking, or whatever, that you can get from doing nothing, can't you? Your body responds to nothing quite nicely, particularly if you're super stressed. Which most of my clients have a lot of. I mean, I'm sure anyone over the age of 30 pretty much has a ton more responsibility than they did when they were teenagers and young adults.
I think thinking about this, so taking the steps as an example, I just looked at how many I did in a year and thought 6 million seems like a good enough goal. 500,000 a month seems about right. I think I could do that. And it also means I had to do a little bit more than I'm already doing.
How many were you doing? So when you set this 6 million goal, what had you done like the previous year? Do you know off the top, any idea?
Probably about 5 million, something like that. It's
okay. Yeah.
So it's not ridiculous, but it's just a little bit more of a stretch. But the thing is, at the moment, so by the end of April, I was at 2.2 million or something. So I'm over. So that's a third of the year, and I'm over a third of the way.
It was in the wet part of the year as well.
Well, exactly. But I could look at that now and go, oh, well, I can do a few fewer steps if I want now. But the thing is, in the future, what happens if something shows up and I have a couple of weeks where I can't because I'm so busy or whatever, or the dog's ill or something like that, so I don't do as much walking. And that goes with holidays coming up and bank holidays and weddings and funerals and bar mitzvahs and all that sort of stuff. But it's kind of, when you get there and you can't do the thing, you can't do your exercise, you can't make your gym session, you're like, oh, I wish I'd have gone those other times when I could have done, but I didn't. And it wasn't because I couldn't be bothered. It was just something that I just didn't that day. And that goes with knowing yourself again, is just, are you the type of person who does that? And if you are, how do you change that? How do you become the type of person who says, do you know what? I need to fit this into my day today because tomorrow I'm busy. And I think it's scheduling as well, because I get a lot of people who, on a Sunday night, there's a link I've got to my calendar and everybody books in their sessions for the week. By Monday morning, there'll be always one person, not the same person, always one, possibly two, who've already changed their sessions that week from Sunday night to Monday morning. It's like, what's happened there to change your week all of a sudden? Or even the Monday, what's happened from Sunday night into Monday to change your day? And a lot of people, it's because someone's slotted a meeting in at work or something like that, and it's like, so they're not even in charge of their own calendar. So if that's happening, you're just leaving everything open to chance. So you've got, it's kind of scheduling time to set aside for yourself and making sure that you protect that time. Because if it's an hour a couple of times a week, that's still not very much. And if you can't schedule that time for yourself, everything's going to be hard because you're giving yourself away to everybody else.
I think that's it. I think in the absence of being the kind of person who shows up to do the work, which you can't be when you start, because you have to develop that. In the absence, you have to rely on certain structures, and that is scheduling. I think that's it. It's scheduling, and then you just have to make a decision. So I think it's no more complex than that. We have to forget about what the best program is or whatever. It's just be better at blocking out that time, managing the time either side, showing up in whatever capacity you can. I mean, I've had people turn up with very little sleep, very, stressed out, but they're still there. And then they become the kind of person who shows up. I think that's the only way to do it. So if people are listening to this going, well, it's easy for you guys, it's quite easy for you to be sanctimonious, you can do it, blah, 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 blah. But it's only just through rehearsal, showing up and doing it. And then you get a better barometer for yourself, because knowing yourself is kind of goes hand in hand with action, doesn't it? The more you take action, the more you discover something about you, and the more you can then reflect on that when there's some time outside it. But I think you've got to schedule. You've just got to schedule. As things change, but it's not. If it's not there, you just won't do it. You just won't do it. You're leaving too much up for chance, and that is probably the secret sauce that personal trainers don't tell you. That's the tagline: scheduling.
There was something I saw the other day that ties in really with what Pete was just saying there, and I can't remember who it was. It might have. No, I won't even try and say who it was from. It was someone on Instagram or something. I don't want to misquote it to someone who it wasn't. But it was something along the lines of, for every session that you do, when you don't really want to do it, but there's no real reason not to. These kind of sessions where you just think, I'll just miss this one, but there's not really any reason. You just don't quite fancy it. For every session like that you do, it buys you a session in the future when you might really need a day off, through something genuinely has happened which makes it difficult to train, or maybe you're slightly injured or you're unwell or something. Because if you get into the habit of just sort of sacking off sessions week in, week out, and if you're due to train, say, 4 days a week, but on an average you miss one for no real reason other than that you slightly can't be bothered or you're a little bit stressed or whatever, that's 25% of sessions you're not turning up for, and it just, Dennis, when we had him on, it just comes down to to that consistency, doesn't it? You know, you have, and I think it's not, and touching on what you said, really, Paul. I mean, it's not even most of the time that it's the action of actually turning up. And if you turn up and have a 50 to 60% session, rather than not turning up, you turn up and you do that 50 to 60%, you know. What's that?
You might have a good one.
Yeah, and it's always the way. I mean, I became acutely aware of this sort of like, I think it was yesterday morning or very often I wake up, and if I have to say, wait, a couple of times recently, I've woke up at like 4 a.m. to just like go to toilet or something, yeah, and then to go back to bed. And you know, you said about training, you kind of in your mind, you know what you're going to be training that day, and you almost slightly dread it. So I wake up and I'm going to toilet, and at 4 a.m. I think, oh, I don't feel like training today, and I'm going to go back to bed for an hour, and I might not be training for 6 hours, but I really don't feel like doing that today. But as soon as sometimes I'll pick the easiest exercise that I've got scheduled in for that day, something that I know I can do, and it's not going to stress me out, and I'll do that, and I'll feel better, you know, and then I can think, actually, I'm going to give the next one a go, and maybe I've got 5 sets scheduled, but I'll just do the first 2 sets and see how I feel.
Yeah.
And you do the first 2 sets, and you think, actually, I can do another set now. And it's just getting that ball rolling, isn't it? It's just doing something, you know.
That's why I push a sled before I just do 5 minutes of sled pushes, because I don't have to think. I have no skill in that. And, I don't put brutally heavy weight on there. I just push it and pull it, And it just gets me moving, you know, without having to just psych myself out of whatever the workout is, you know.
Yeah, and it's that the old Tony Robbins thing, you know, motion creates emotion, you know, or change your physiology and you change your mind, you know. If you just start moving and you gather momentum, you're going to feel better, and then you'll feel more like doing it. If you're sat on the sofa, really comfy, like watching TV, it's very hard to generate the will and the enthusiasm to get up and to do something, isn't it? You know,
Pete.
So, yeah.
Pete, you know, you train everyone outside, and you've got your thingy of kettlebells. You know, you've got. Do people pull the trolley that you have? Do you use that? No,
that's changed since COVID. They bring their own.
Oh, they do. All right.
Yeah, and then we end up, because they're all on different weights anyway, so we end up with a good selection of kettlebells. So
they all kind of do like a loaded carry, do they, to get the kettlebells into the park and stuff? So
yeah, one guy, it's hilarious. He's given us the bell back now. He used to drive up to the park, and you can't park during the day immediately where we are. You have to go a little bit further down. So he'd drive up, leave his bell by the tree, and drive off, park, come back, and then bring the bell over. And I was like, why don't you carry it from the car? And he's like, well, it's too far. And it's not. It's just because he couldn't be asked. And I'm like, so now, if I've got a couple of guys coming in, I only need 2 bells, say, and it's a 24 and a, I don't know, and a 20. I carry them down there, and I'll just stop and put them down when I need to and walk, because it's 0.2 of a mile. But it gets me steps up. And I mean, I've got to do it anyway. It gets me steps up, but also it's loaded carries, which are just great for you. So if you're carrying a 24 and a 20, I keep swapping them over and moving them around and what have you. But it's free training.
Everyone's on like 6 kilos.
Yeah. But it's free training then, so it's great.
I'll tell you something, talking about this loaded carries, this is just one of the things we did with James Brees when he was down a few weeks ago. He did the Strength Matters hybrid coaching thing at Unique Results. And one of the kind of tests that he did, which I've been doing with some of my guys recently, was really nice, because obviously we all know the benefits of loaded carries, and we all enjoy loaded carries. Well, I don't know if we all enjoy them, but we espouse the benefits and we do them. But I know that because Dan John always had, as part of his 1, 2, 3, 4 assessment, was, can you farmers walk body weight sort of spread over the 2 hands, you know, so either with a track bar or with 2 kettlebells or whatever. So you'd have body weight, but it was never really kind of specified how far you had to do or how far you did. It was just kind of, he said, out and back. So depending upon what size gym you've got, or if you're training in a car park, or if you're training in your garage, it might be walking to the end of your driveway and back. But what we did with James was really nice because it really kind of gives it clarity and measurability, if that's a word. It was like 75% of your body weight for 90 seconds. And I really like that. And I've been doing that with some women lately and all different kinds of people, different ages. And 75% of body weight spread over two hands, so for 90 seconds is a really nice little, almost use it as I've done it a couple of times as like a finisher, because it does kind of, most people's forearms and grips at the end of that, they put them down and then they're like, oh God, like the fingers are really, but it's quite a nice measurable thing. So I don't know if any of the listeners are, listening and want to try that, that's a really good, nice measurable thing to try. And then obviously when you can do 75% body weight for 90 seconds, try and step it up to body weight for 90 seconds. It's a nice time. Yeah, it's very good.
I listened to a good podcast. Was it the Mark Bell one? And they did an interesting podcast on kind of what's the word, hyped or overhyped exercises. Overrated, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it kind of like overrated or underrated? They do, don't they, sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about loaded carries? Are they overrated or underrated? Because everyone espouses the benefits.
Well, not everyone does. I think that's like everyone in our echo chamber does.
Yeah.
Say, you know what I mean?
I would say life is a loaded carry, though, because life's about just picking things up and taking them from here to there, isn't it? We're doing that all day long. Carrying shopping, putting things, like how many people put their backs out, picking things up and moving them from one place to another, moving in. I mean, this whole thing with spinal movement and everything is that's the hot topic these days, isn't it? About the spine these days, like, well, it is in my world anyway. But, the amount of people who I know who've picked something up from over here and rotated to put it over there, and that's when they've hurt their back. One of the guys who I trained, the guy who dislocated his shoulder, and it was popping out when he was opening his fridge. And I'm assuming, and this is a normal fridge, not like a walk-in fridge.
An industrial walk-in, yeah.
But he's now got stronger and he can get his arms above his head and he's pressing a 16, no problem, and all that. He's got a mate who he said just went to pick his bag up and he's ruptured a disc in his back. Herniated a disc, whatever he's done to it anyway. He's hurt his back. And it's a disc problem. And that was just picking up his work bag because he sits around all day. So it's like you said. I think it's a good exercise.
I listened to the one that the podcast we did the other day with Dave Adkins. I listened to that back, and that's like you said something in that podcast where I think it was more about tendon pain, yes. Where you'd said, what have I done in the gym that day to cause this? And it was like, well, it's not what you've done that day. It's what you've been doing for the last months or years. And that's the straw that broke the camel's back, literally in what you're saying now. It's kind of like, it's that, years and years of bad posture and weakness and not training, isn't it?
And it's also what Dave said in that. He said he sees people who do too little or too much.
Yeah.
Never in between.
Yeah. Well, that is another thing that inspired me, actually, what Dave said when he said, that really sat with me. And I thought that really makes a lot of sense. So I did another, it was either a video or a post. So I've got an issue. I don't know if any of you, I don't think you guys do, because you have a set number of sessions, I think, that people can do each week. But we've got like, say, 40 sessions on a week, and people can kind of do as much as they want in various things almost. And I've probably got 25% of people out of my, say, 150 people, 25% of people probably aren't doing quite enough to get where they want to get. They might turn up once or twice a week, and they may be the kind of person who has this kind of, bank holiday mindset of just, let it all hang out. And, so they're not really doing enough in any way to make a difference. And then we've got 25% of people who actually are doing far too much exercise. And then we've got 50% kind of in the middle who've got it about right, So that was an interesting thing. What's that?
9 to 3. 3 a week.
Oh, what? That's what sessions people do. So I've got some people who come and do 3 sessions a day. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
And and the problem is, it's this kind of
3 sessions a day.
Yeah. And it's the problem, not every day, but some days. And it's this problem of, it's this compensation mindset of, and I know the main problem is, and it's not 25% of people, that we may be talking 10 people out of 150. So whatever that percentage is, you know what I mean? Something, less than 10% of this who are doing it.
Are you counting Lauren as one of them? Because she did two.
No, Lauren is obviously, she's very, very like sensible and programmed by Fion and all that, and she trains properly, you know what I mean, obviously. But what I was going to say was, because people, and this kind of ties into the all or nothing mindset that we've spoke about before, because the people who tend to do too much training are also doing too much eating and drinking, you know what I mean, on the other side. So they're using the training as a compensation for not being as strict as they could be potentially with food and drink. So it's that using exercise as a compensation for lifestyle.
What would happen if you limited them to one?
Oh yeah, I mean, I know there's, it's almost like shutting the what's it called? What's the saying? Shutting the stable after the horse has bolted, kind of thing. It's difficult to, when a whole business is moving in, is got so many moving parts, to then suddenly say you're only allowed to do a maximum of 1 session a day. I mean, and to be honest, because it is a fairly small number of people. What's that?
There's another solution.
Yeah.
Let's make the first session they do that day horrific, and then they won't want to do anymore.
No.
Come on. There's a nasty side to you, I reckon, James.
There's not a nasty side to me.
An evil, uncaring man there somewhere that we could dig out.
I'm too much of a pushover. But that's kind of, but that's the issue. You see, it's and people, we've spoke about this before, haven't we? Like you mentioned, Pete, you're within yourself. The running mindset of, I'm eating too much and drinking too much. I'm years ago, when you first decided to get in shape.
Yeah.
I'm eating too much and drinking too much. I'm just going to run another 5 miles today. You know what I mean? But then the problem is, you can just keep adding. And I started calling it junk training. You can just keep adding junk training and junk sessions in to try and outdo what you're doing at the other end, when really getting a better handle on the lifestyle practices will stop you needing to. And I think, you guys, you Pete, obviously you train with Paul McElroy. Paul, you obviously, Dennis programs for you now. I don't want to do any more training than I'm doing. You know what I mean? I couldn't suddenly say, I'm going to add in an extra 5K run and an extra spinning class today. It's not, my training is more than enough. And then I want to just try and recover from that and get stronger and eat and rebuild and rest, so that then when I train again, like tomorrow or the day after, I feel like I'm getting stronger. It's kind of, but I suppose that's the difference, between exercising and training, which we've touched on before as well.
But this is where it can be, I was going to say, this is where people can get it so wrong. And I don't mean that in a horrible way. I mean, just thinking, doing more is better. And some people think that. So there's someone who I think of specifically, who runs a lot and then goes swimming a lot and doesn't eat much because they want to they don't want to put weight on. So there's kind of a mindset thing there of, I don't want to put weight on, so I'm going to do everything. So not eating enough, running a lot, swimming a lot, and I was told did that in one day. Went for a run in the morning, I think, went for a swim at lunchtime or something. And then this person's got a daughter who's a physio, and our daughter is doing a half marathon, I think, in a couple of weeks. So she was like, should we do a kettlebell session this evening? So she's got some kettlebells at home, and they did that. And she hurt her back, this lady.
So that's 3 sessions in the day, isn't it? And
I'm like,
eating properly. Yeah.
It's like, and I was like, I'm not surprised, because your body's screaming out for rest. It's screaming out for recovery, because she's in her 50s as well, so it's like, that is a lot. It's a hell of a lot.
You can kind of do
then,
that.
but then people can't understand why they feel rubbish all the time. And it's like, well, because your body needs to rest and recover. And that doesn't mean sitting down on the sofa. My rest and recovery is walking.
It's a walk.
That's why I've added it more into my day, because it helps me mentally, because I'm out and about and I watch him running about and I see that his life, if I had to change life with anything in this world, it would be him. Because he's like, honestly, he's got the best life in the world. But yeah, so it's that kind of, seeing people get into that mindset, it's really hard to then get out of, because it's like, well, what do I do? Because it's almost like chasing a result rather than just letting it happen.
And I don't have a go at people. I'm not trying to like embarrass people or shame people or be nasty or be angry or be whatever with people. But it's just, I know that I've seen it so many times over the years of the way people go into things, and it's not, something will give, it's like you say, an injury will happen, or just they'll stop making progress and they'll get despondent,
I think if you dissected all our programs, so we're all on 3 different programs.
Yeah.
I've trained 5 days a week. I think, James, you've trained 6 days a week. I've trained 3 times a week. Some of my clients train twice a week, for example. You can train as many times as you want. You can train multiple times a day. Yes, you can, of course, if you can recover from it. And if there's some thought behind it. I'm sure, when you're training for a triathlon or an Ironman, you kind of have to do multiple training sessions, but they can't just be random. They can't just be hell for leather, see how it goes. I'm feeling good today. Let's show up and boss it. You've just got to stick to the plan. And I know, James, when you're doing, I've only done 6 days a week once. And I couldn't fit it into my schedule. But I'm sure, when you're doing those 6 day a week training program, that, you're not really doubling up on any particular kind of workout on a particular, you're not doing like shoulders one day, shoulders the next day, shoulders day after.
I was just struggling to fit it in. I mean, I was literally struggling to fit in 6 sessions a week. Especially, with the amount, when you're strength training, with the amount of then time you need to be resting in between sets and exercises. And I just, now that I'm on 4 days a week at the moment, and it's far more manageable. I do 4 strength sessions a week, and I teach 2 spinning classes a week, and I walk, and that's it. That's enough. Yeah, more than enough.
I do 3, and they take about an hour and 15, hour and 20 if I'm being a bit slower. That usually maybe sometimes overruns with a bit of stretching. And then I'll run down to work on a Thursday like today. After this, I'll run down and get my run in where I can get the opportunity to. So each program's runs, but I sometimes can't do them on the same day as the training. And I'll do a run on a Sunday evening as well. And Pete, you're on 3 days a week, aren't you?
That's a great thing. I'm actually on 5 days a week now, but because the program, I can't fit it into 3 days. There's one exercise. I've got one-legged push-up assisted, and I can fit it in. I can never be bothered to do it on the same day. So I now do it twice a week instead of 3 times a week on a Tuesday and Friday, Tuesday and Thursday, because it doesn't take out much out of my central nervous system. I find it easy, but I just don't want to injure myself by doing it when I'm tired. But this is a great example. So last week, I'd been away to the mountains, done a lot of walk. I did a long walk as well. I had to do 2 days in a row, Tuesday and Wednesday. And then Friday I had a set of presses to do, 10 sets of presses to do with a heavy weight, 10 sets of 10. Heavy weight for me, which last time I did it, I missed the 10th set. So I did that. And then I had other stuff to do, which I didn't. I was like, I'm not doing it. And then I was going to do it the following day, and I didn't. Because I was like, do you know what? I'm tired. I need a rest. So I just rested over the weekend. And I had a chat with Paul. And he was great. He said, I sent in the set and I said, I missed this last time. I've got it today. He said, that means you're on a trajectory for a higher 1 rep max, but we don't need to find that out. And I was like, I don't want to find that out. I'm happy that was better. But then I was tired from it, So I then said to him, I'll do the pistol squats tomorrow. And he said, that's the other right answer. Because if you're tired, don't do them. Because if you hurt your knee or you hurt your hips or you fall over or you drop the bell on your foot, you're out for months, aren't you? So
that's what Dennis said to me. I mean, he's like, I was like struggling to get, just because it was the bank holidays, you know, struggling to get 3 workouts in. So I was like, okay, I'll do 2 back to back. And he's like, no, take the day off. Just do 2 this week. Just do them in the order they're written. Don't worry about the day. You know, I mean, he obviously trusts me enough to get the volume in over the period of time. Over the course of a month, I'll get pretty much all the workouts in. But you know, to have the adequate rest in between, and you know, I need it. It's not to say I couldn't do it. It's not to say I couldn't do it. I could kind of grit my teeth and get through it. But just for the sake of keeping the form good, because I think after a while it becomes less about the exercise, as you said, James. It's more about the skill acquisition, particularly in exercises which require skill. Like, they're not just about brute force. You know, like a one leg squat is a skill based exercise. You know, you have to have your balance. Your nervous system has to be there. There is brute force obviously there, but without the nervous system being attuned and being fatigued, you know, it's unstable, isn't it? It's just one foot on the floor. It's the same with things like jerks and snatches. There's so many kind of fine motor control things and efficiencies that if you're not efficient, it will just become a horrifically brutal experience. And you'll end up just coming out feeling despondent. It's not to say don't do something. I'll get my run in on the day, which I couldn't do the workout, you know. I don't know about you, James.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. You know, sometimes it's a challenge to get things done. But I mean, Paul is very good actually, because I don't know if I don't often tell him how I do things, but I do, as long as I get it all done. But I do split my sessions up sometimes. So like this morning, I did my pull-ups because I had a half an hour gap, and it doesn't require any setting of equipment or bars or anything. It was just, right, I've got half an hour between clients. I'm going to do I think it was 5 sets of 8 pull-ups, you know, right. I'll do them in this half an hour because then I'll get them done and I can mark them off, you know. And then when I've got a bit more time, I'll do something else. But for me, at different times of the day as well. I mean, I don't like barbell back squatting or deadlifting early in the morning. You know, I'm not awake enough. My back is not, you know, while you're asleep overnight, talking about spine again, when you're asleep overnight, your spine gets used to being in that position, doesn't it? And it's deloaded and you're kind of laying in a certain way. And when you get up, it takes me a while for everything to kind of settle down in my body and for me to actually want to certainly deadlift or squat anything. You know, I couldn't go in at 6 a.m. and squat or deadlift. You know, for me now, anyway, at 45 years of age, I prefer to do that more like I want to have been awake for 2, 3, 4 hours, been moving around, just general movement, and then I'd kind of feel much better to do it. You know, I'm much better doing those kind of exercises late morning, lunchtime, later in the day, you know. So I just fit in things when I can, you know.
Yeah, I train at the same time as well.
Yeah,
I've just thought your younger PTs will therefore tell you, well, just get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you can deadlift at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Get up at 2 in the morning, take a wee.
Yeah. Anyway, no, it's interesting. It's good sometimes just to catch up on these things, you know, like this, the training for us. You know, the stuff, obviously, like I say, I've taken a lot from all the recent guests, actually. Looking forward to spending time with John Engham next week. You know, took a lot from Dennis, took a lot from Dave Adkins, actually. Karen, obviously, was great. And Travis and Ted last week, you know, just young guys with boundless energy and enthusiasm, weren't they? You know,
honestly, I said after we stopped recording, didn't I? I was like, I didn't talk like that when I was 22.
Yeah.
No.
Used to talk to old tired buggers, aren't we? Jaded with life.
Yeah, but no, it was great. Just that, you know, that boundless energy. I saw Travis had been and done, I don't know if you've started following him on Instagram, but he went and did like a High Rocks thing. I think it was recently. He did that partner event, and then he's going to I think it's like the World Championships or the British Championships or something. But he's running, you know, I think the High Rocks, isn't it? It's like a 1 kilometer run. He was loving it. It's like a 1 kilometer run, then like, you know, I don't know, a ski erg or a row or prowler, then it's another 1K run, then it's something else. And he's running around, you know, and it's just like, it's great to see, you know. And obviously Mark Lewis, who we had on, does a lot of the High Rock stuff as well, doesn't he? So
My mate Kev was there. My mate who I grew up with in Newcastle, who now lives down. Him and his wife did it together.
Yeah, it's a
Saw
big
it on Facebook.
it's a big growth thing. It's kind of like
Is it?
it's like the obstacle course racing and CrossFit all kind of mixed together, isn't it? A little bit.
Less weightlifting. It's more like conditioning exercises, like pushing a sled.
It's lower skill, but it's low skill based. Yeah, so it's kind of it's more similar to the, like you say, the obstacle course racing mentality, I suppose, rather than CrossFit. It's not weightlifting and stuff. They do like burpees and broad jumps and things like that, but it's a lot more conditioning and fitness and rather than strength. But no, it's kind of like a big
anything, no kettlebell work or anything.
No, nothing like that. I think they do wall balls, you know what I mean? Like those sort of squats and ball up on the wall and catch and squat, and they do things like that. But it's not a lot of, certainly no Olympic lifting or kettlebells and stuff like that.
Making me feel tired just listening to you two talk.
Yeah. I have to say I've got zero interest in doing it myself. Absolutely zero interest. But as we always say, kind of whatever floats your boat, whatever you enjoy and whatever makes you want to get up and exercise and get off the couch is not a bad thing generally, Yeah.
I was doing some videos on that today, and that's one of the things that I've got is make it your own. Because if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're not going to. Well, you might stick to it, but you're going to hate it. And that's the whole thing with enjoy the process, isn't it? And if you can enjoy the process, it's the goals are inevitability.
Yeah.
What do you guys hate about your programs?
I don't hate anything. I find certain things more challenging and harder, but then I know that it's like the old Dan John thing, isn't it? Where are your gaps, and then work on your gaps. Like squatting is not something that I've ever done as much as I should have done, barbell squatting, so I find that very challenging and I don't enjoy that. But I don't hate it, because even with that, I can feel like I did a post, I think within my group it was, but I don't hate it as much as I used to, Still don't like it, but I don't hate it as much as I used to, because you do anything you do consistently, you're going to get better at, aren't you? And you can sort of see that when you get better at it, you dislike it less and you feel happy to do it a bit more. So it's just sticking with something. It's being consistent and sticking with something long enough so that you start to see and feel improvements, and then you're more inclined to do it more, But barbell back squatting, especially sets of 10, I don't have to do more than no, I did some 12s actually, but higher rep back squatting I don't enjoy. But
I've got 100 reps to do with back squat in the next week. It's not very heavy weights. I think 30 kilos.
Oh, okay.
100 reps. You just have to get used to it after a while.
What, in one set have you got to do? Is it a really long set? Yeah.
5 minutes. So you've got a 5-minute timer.
Yeah.
I think Dennis does it with about 70 kilos, because he basically does it with the equivalent of the weights he'll be using.
Yeah.
So,
so it's 20 reps a minute for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Maybe
20 reps.
Yeah, you don't want to have a heavy weight back for that.
That's one every 3 seconds.
Yeah.
I'd struggle to do that with the bar, I think. With 20 kilos. I'd struggle to do that with just the bar, I think.
We just get used to doing lots and lots of volume, you see. So, like, for example, at the moment, I'm doing, like, the GPP is back squats. And there's a variety of different programs he has that it cycles within a training cycle. But one of which is 100 reps working up to 100 reps with back squat. And then same with bench press as well. The bench press is more kind of narrow grip bench. And again, not very heavy, just 20.
But that's just that's dealing with like lactic acid, isn't it? And that's dealing with that volume. But it's like anything, you can train for it and you'll improve.
But serves the goal, which is the sport,
Yeah.
I like that Paul asked the question of what don't you like about your training? Because
we'd ask him, what do you like?
No, because in his head, you know what's going on in his head, right? Because we're not training for kettlebell sport. So we quite like what we do. And it's like, if you're training for kettlebell sport, it's all horrible.
Yeah, that's the thing. The thing it's that you're fighting your own. What do they call it? You're in a bitch. You're just like the person who just says, this is going to be hard. Oh my god. And I'm not up for this today. That's the main thing. Because you actually don't mind it when you finish it. You actually quite like it.
Yeah, it's like anything. It's like when you finish a marathon, you don't mind it. It feels when you cross the finish line.
Yeah.
Because I was training the other day and I was on my own in the gym and had to do some back squats, and I put some Rammstein up really loud, and I was swearing at myself before the set. I was literally shouting. No one was in the gym because I had to get through it, before I started the set, because
I love that, because you're on here, you talk away, you're very measured. You explain things very well. You're in your cold tub doing videos to your guys and all of that. And then it's one of those things, like the things you don't see are James slapping himself in the face and swearing at himself and listening to banging German thrash metal. I love that. That's brilliant.
Because the week before I'd only got 5 reps on this weight, and I was meant to be 10. So I literally thought, I'm going to do it. And I was literally swearing and like psyching myself up to do it. And I did it because I knew that I could do it. I just wimped out. You know what I mean? Like it got to the stage where, I don't want to do another one. So I rack it. You know what I mean? And I thought I can do it, but it's just pure mental, just to try and do it. But
I've got an online client who we all know, but I'll not say who it is. But she was doing an exercise and she failed it, and she sent me the video because they send me videos, and she said, "Don't watch it with the sound on." So I did, and I had to cover Sid's ears. The language, that honestly, it was it was shocking. I'll not repeat it here.
No,
I've got a vision of you being the kind of personal trainer version of a straight edge punk. No drink, no drugs, but in the mosh pit, kicking off, beating your chest, doing windmills. Yeah.
Who are you talking to, me or Pete?
No, you, James.
Okay. Do me. I haven't been in a mosh pit for a long while. Do me. On that bombshell, should we start to wrap up?
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, do me. Okay, guys. So I think we've been talking for the whole time. We've been on about an hour, I think. So I take it. Is there any final thoughts? Or we've been talking for an hour with our final thoughts, I'd imagine. Anything, Pete or Paul?
I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I wrote it down ages ago when we were talking about the 10-10-80 rule. About how 10% of your, so just talking about training sessions, you can apply it to anything, but 10% of them are going to feel great. And like you've won the session, which most people want all of their sessions to feel like that. 10% of them are going to suck and they're going to be awful. And I think a lot of people think more of their sessions feel like that. Paul probably being one of them. With that's the goal, is to get 10%. But then 80% of them, and like we've been talking, the whole thread of this conversation, 80% of them are just going to be punching the clock. Just like getting up and going to work and coming home, getting up and going to work and coming home. If you can make your sessions feel like that, so you don't have to feel super emotional after them, you still get the hormonal reaction to it, the physical reaction to it, the mental reaction to it. You still get that. It just doesn't feel as, you've got it feels more balanced. And I got told that by one of my coaches, who got told it by one of his coaches. So God knows who actually came up with that rule. But I just think that's a great, it's a great way to think about it, because it helps you enjoy the process.
I think that's absolutely right. And it's like going in the gym. What was it? I saw something the other day, or I was thinking something the other day, where some people go in the gym and they want every day to be like a PR day. Do you know what I mean? Which is kind of what you're talking about, that top 10% of sessions. They almost want to lift more than they've ever lifted each day, or do more reps than they've ever done that day, and feel fantastic and push themselves so hard every single day. But that's you don't get that was what I was gonna say. It was like you don't get stronger by testing your strength. You don't get stronger by testing your strength and displaying your strength. You get stronger by building your strength, so and all the stuff, Paul McElroy and lots of Dan John, everyone talks about is putting the work in at sub-maximal levels that are just very, like you say, rudimentary. Punch the clock, just keep it going, just keep doing it. Not every session has to feel hard. Not every session has to feel like you're maxing out and like you're bursting blood vessels. It's just get it done and be consistent.
Unless you're a kettlebell sport athlete.
Well, even then, I'm sure like Dennis. Most of you. I think it's true across the board, isn't it? Like you say, 80% of sessions will probably be somewhere around the kind of 70 to 80% or 7 to 8 out of 10 RPE. You know what I mean? You don't need to be pushing those 9s and 10s very often. When you get close to a comp or when you get close to peaking for something, yes. But most of the time, it's just, get it done, dry your wobbly bar off and get up and do your pull-ups,
Yeah.
Saw that the other day. Do me, Paul, any final thoughts from you?
I say the punch the clock workouts, the ones you do when you're in a rage on your own. Is that punching things? No, I think we covered everything. I have nothing else to add.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we are in the process of lining up some special guests for the near future. We've got a few people just scheduling at the moment. I won't give anything away yet, but we should have some very special guests coming up over the next few episodes. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're listening or watching on a platform that allows you to do so. And also, please do find us on Instagram and follow us and like us, and find us on Facebook. And if you are on YouTube, please subscribe as well, because that will help us get more reach. And we will see you next week for episode 144. Have a fantastic week, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com, or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.